Welcome, good evening, to the Northborough School Committee open meeting of Monday, November 4th, 2019. It is 7 p.m. We're having our meeting on a Monday this evening due to the mass conference on the Cape. So this is our regularly scheduled meeting for November. We are going to start the meeting this evening with some action on minutes.
Madam Chairperson, I move that we accept the Northborough School Committee open meeting minutes of Monday, November the 4th.
Seconded.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Okay, motion passes. We also have a set of minutes in the packet.
Madam Chair, I vote that we approve and retain the executive session minutes of October 2nd, 2019.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Great. Passes. The next agenda item for new business is the school improvement plan and PTO presentation.
Good evening. Hi, everyone. I'm Rebecca Foley-Mahopoulos, and this is Diana Condon, and we chair the ZPTO. And we just want to thank you for having us here tonight to talk about ZPTO's work for the upcoming year and answer any questions you may have, but we really appreciate this opportunity. So the ZPTO is made up of 4 board members, the chairs, the treasurer, Christina D'Arienzo, and our secretary, Anna Servideo. Diana and I are new chairs this year. It's a 2-year term, and we are lucky enough to have Christina D'Arienzo as our treasurer because she was the chair for the past 2 years, so we have her institutional knowledge still to help us out as we're fairly new to Z School. We both have first graders and then little ones that will be coming up to Z, so we're going to be there for a while. But we're still new, so we're still learning on the job. But it's great to have Christina because she had done a great job and put us in a good position. We also have quite a few other leadership roles at Z, on the ZPTO. And we actually expanded leadership roles this year. And the idea was and we've actually found that it has really increased participation at our PTO meetings, volunteerism at our events, and overall just kind of people getting involved because they're more invested, they have more ownership over different pieces of the pie. And of course, there are other people on the PTO board too, that that are members of our PTO that may just come to one meeting and then volunteer for an hour at school pictures and then bring a food item to our teacher appreciation luncheon, and we welcome that too. Any and all participation is welcomed, and we make that very clear. We know people are very busy. We meet every month as a full PTO, and we meet, we do it so that it kind of is tailored to different people's schedules. So this month we're meeting at a nighttime meeting, and then December it'll be a daytime meeting, so we rotate in that way. We also, we talk at the kindergarten orientation. We just do a little like, we're the PTO, this is what we do, this is who we are, sign up, and think about signing up. But we also ask if people have any areas of expertise that they want to lend us or let us know about, 'cause we've actually had some success in that way. We recently met with a kindergarten parent who is a graphic designer and is going to be helping us out with some spirit gear. And it's a great way for her to get involved. She works during the day, but this is a way she can lend her expertise, which is definitely needed. Talk a little bit about our budget. So this year, our approved budget is a little over $24,000. As you can see, the majority of our budget does go to our enrichment programs, which we'll talk about in a few minutes. But that's really where the majority goes, to kind of enhance programming and learning that goes beyond the classroom walls that we bring in. The other large portion of our budget goes to academic and classroom grants. So academic grants are submitted by teachers and specialists to really enhance classroom learning, and that's on a rolling basis. And Diana's going to talk about those in a few minutes. And then the classroom grants are for teachers and to help teachers and specialists buy classroom supplies at the beginning of the year, because it can be quite an expense for them. So that is to help out. We also allocate money, as you can see in the pie chart, for field trips for each grade, for spirit events, or I like to call them kind of community building events. Also for staff appreciation, which is very important to us to really kind of show the staff how much we appreciate what they do for our kiddos. Also for our field day in the spring, for PTO overhead such as taxes and our different subscriptions. And then miscellaneous expenses are like community outreach programs that we may donate to or take part in, such as like sponsoring the after prom party for Algonquin, or we purchased a brick for the town common that's going to be opening up soon. So that's just kind of how the pie breaks out. So our enrichment programs are off to a great start this year. We have some amazing enrichment coordinators, Courtney Mills and Jenna Keys, who are just doing an outstanding job this year, bringing in some great programming and lining up some programming to really complement our curriculum. So we already had our WPI and Mass Academy of Robotics come in and do demonstrations for the whole school, which was widely, I heard great stories that the kids really enjoyed that program. We also actually today had an enrichment program at Z School, and this one was was new this year. It was our gym teacher and a PTO parent teamed up. This PTO parent is a dance instructor. She also owns her own dance studio in Sudbury, and again, lend her expertise for creating a dance day. Today was the first day, like certain grades went today, and then the
Wednesday and Friday. She'll
Friday.
finish.
So she's kind of broke it up, but I've already heard some good feedback.
Excellent. Yeah.
So that's great when parents and teachers can do that, and that's something we're really trying to do a lot of this year, is really working together with families, teachers, staff to kind of really create that cohesive, inclusive kind of feeling and relationship. We also have, as you can see, we have a lot of science kind of based programming this year lined up that we're excited about. The next one, I think, is the lights and lasers for the 4th grade that we partner with the Discovery Museum on. A lot of our programs we partner with the Museum of Science, the Discovery Museum, Mass Audubon to come in. Of course, we're constantly looking for partners to bring in new ideas. Courtney and Jenna are doing a really great job at that. And something that we're going to be talking about at our next PTO meeting is planning even more STEM-focused programming for the upcoming years and years beyond. So, yeah, so that's, our enrichment programs in a nutshell. So our PTO-sponsored events, and what we mean by this is our staff appreciation events, our spirit, or as like community building events, and also community service events. These are just some listed that we've already taken part in this year, such as our back-to-school luncheon that we have for the staff and teachers before, the day before school starts. We took part in the Apple Fest parade, which was a hot day, but it was still fun for families to march and show our pride. We recently had one of our most beloved events, our Read Aloud Night, that just happened 2 weeks ago, where we do this during the fall book fair. We have a fall and spring book fair, but we do it in conjunction with our fall book fair. And the teachers, administration, and staff read to each grade. It's kind of broken up into grades, and students and their siblings, families can come in. They wear their pajamas, they bring a stuffed animal, and the teachers read to them. And then everyone gathers in the cafeteria for milk and cookies that actually the fifth graders serve. So it's a really nice, it's a nice event, and the fifth graders are kind of taking part in that volunteerism as they're about to go on to the middle school. They really enjoy that. And we do have some staff that like to dress up like their characters in the book, which is really fun. Mrs. Bryan and Mrs. Anderson read to the kindergartners, so it's always great. We do a monthly walk bike to school every month, even during the cold winter days, that different parents we have a lead parent on that, but different families actually sign up and sponsor, and they run that walk and bike to school every month for that particular month. We also just did our first food collection or food drive for the year in response. We did a little earlier this year in response to the food pantry, seeing that they were very low on food, especially snacks. So we did a kind of like a snack drive where every grade brought in a different type of snack food, and then we did it in conjunction with the Spirit Day. We just had some new T-shirts produced, so that was a great way for students to wear them, come in. The fourth graders helped load the cars. The fifth graders helped sort. We had our kids come and stock the shelves. It was just a really nice way to give back. And we'll be continuing the food drives every other month. These are some upcoming events that we'll be doing this year. A lot of, again, teacher appreciation. Our holiday staff breakfast is approaching in December. Next week, for parent-teacher conferences, we provide, we have parents donate recovery snacks for teachers, such as Keurig cups, popcorn, fruit, whatever, different snacks they sign up for and bring it in to get teachers and staff through those long days. I'm sure they're excruciatingly long. Then we have our Teacher Appreciation Day in May. We also will be taking part in the Worcester Railers game and Bravehearts game with some other elementary schools. We do Field Day in the spring. We have some new events, spirit-type events lined up this year. A family movie night we're planning, a family bingo night in the winter. We're also going to be partnering with the American Heart Association to do Jump for Heart fundraiser in February, and then a spring cleanup. Diana's landscaper is also a Z parent, and he has offered to help with different type of cleanup events. So we're going to be doing a spring cleanup event using his kind of expertise and wisdom on how to kind of spruce up Z schools. So we'll be looking forward to that in the spring. Couldn't do fall because of Triple E. Thank God that's over. And then we're hoping to do an end-of-year barbecue this year. We've heard some dads are really masters on the grills, so we're going to put that to the test this year and see how that goes. So those are just some upcoming events we're planning on doing. And I'm going to hand it over to Diana.
Great. So the grants. So at Z, we accept grants from the teachers and the specialists on a rolling basis, so they can come in at any time, even through June. So we already have received a few this year. The first was from our music teacher, who put in a grant for 10 sets of headphones. They're noise-canceling headphones. And he has turned his classroom into a real musical workshop, and there's instruments all over in all the edges of the room. And so these headphones will help the children practice without hearing all the other sound of all the other instruments. So that was approved. And the other grant that came to us last month was for the 3rd grade teachers that would like a math and literature library. So they asked for 29 books for use during their math workshops. So that one came in. And then we are looking forward to receiving a grant for indoor-outdoor recess for carts and supplies to expand what the kids can do, whether they're indoors, outdoors, the rain, just more ideas for them to use for the recess time. And so we're still early in the year, so we expect more to be coming and look forward to getting those. So the fundraisers. This is how we can execute a lot of these events that we've already talked about, the enrichment programs. So we've already had 3. We did the school photos, which brought in $1,000. We did the Otis Spunkmeyer, and it's also the soul warming soup fundraiser, and that one brought in over $3,000. And then most recently our book fair, and this book fair is by Best, and all the proceeds go to our library. So that one, we actually had an increase of $500 over last year. That's great. So some upcoming fundraisers. The first up is going to be our direct donation campaign. That's going to be starting in the next week or so. And this timing is because we want to take advantage of all the end of the year giving and employers that will match donations. So we have a letter ready to send out, and those will go out soon. A couple others, we're going to be hopefully doing some restaurant nights. I know the 5th grade is doing one this week, and we're thinking about doing one for the PTO maybe in the winter when there's not as much going on. We have the Scholastic Book Fair in the spring, and Kids Fest is our biggest event. Last year we brought in over $10,000, and $7,000 of that was generated from our silent auction. So that's a really fun night. It's family friendly. You bring the siblings. We have games, we have face painting, we have a cakewalk, bouncy houses, food, and then the silent auction. And all the kids get to come together and vote on a theme. So last year we did outer space, and it was fun. Rebecca got really creative in naming all the games of like the Saturn ring toss, and yeah, that was fun.
Definitely fun.
So we're also thinking about possibly trying a parents' night out. Just to go along with how we're trying to get all the families together, get people to know each other, and having a family night, a parents' night out without the kids is something different, and we thought it could be fun. So how we communicate, we do email, but communication it's just a big piece of how we're trying to create the strong Z community, so we try to use multiple outlets. We've been increasing our presence on Facebook, and using that, trying to keep it to one every couple days, but just trying to stay active on there and just connecting with families that way. We started a PTO newsletter this year, and this year we also have our own bulletin board, which is located near the parent pickup area. So we try to get in there and update it as things are changing. But it's been nice to have just a physical presence right in the school. So. And then Rebecca also mentioned that we did have an opportunity to speak to the kindergarten parents on their first day of school and just kind of put a face to the name and ask people to sign up and let them know what we're doing and why we do what we do. So yeah, I think that's...
Hold on one second.
Thank you.
Thank you, slide.
It's just
It's
us.
just a picture slide. Yes, it's just a picture. After the parade,
After the
we were
parade,
very
we were
hot.
very hot, yeah. I don't know how to get that back, okay.
That's okay.
You don't
Yeah.
It's okay. So, yeah, thank you. Thank you
very much.
again. Happy to answer any questions, but we appreciate this.
Any questions or
opportunity
comments?
to speak.
John?
Okay, thank you. Rebecca and Diana, thank you so much for everything that you do. The PTO is such a wonderful support system what you do for the faculty is absolutely amazing for the students, and just bring a community all together. The next item that we have on our agenda is going to be after the school improvement plan is the MCAS presentation. And I was glad to see that some of the things that you're doing, such as the robotics, the STEM, the science enrichment, the STEAM lab that you have, which also does the arts, some of these other curriculum areas, sometimes after the language and the math and the science, it might be just a little bit left behind. But all these things are so wonderful that they also help the students when they have to think out of the box and they have to think about some of the problems that they're given in 5th grade in the science MCAS, and what would they do and how would they go about. So I think that even at kindergarten and 1st grade is going to remember when they saw that robotics, and I think it's going to enhance and probably increase scores as we go further. So thank you for everything that you're doing, and the money that you give back to the schools is amazing. So thank all the parents. It's really wonderful, so thank you.
So on behalf of the district, I also want to thank you. I think I'm always so impressed when the PTOs present all the work that they do, and it really provides great leadership. And you are making a difference in our schools, and it means a lot to our principals, our students, and community, so thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Diane.
We always wait for you to make that comment. You should just say, the school committee.
I should. Can we do that?
Right.
Should.
Just a big old ditto. No, when you're not here, I say the same thing.
You do?
Yeah.
On my footsteps.
So thanks again to Rebecca and Diana for all the work that you've done. As we go through the presentation, we'll talk a lot about climate and culture at Z, and I think PTO really adds to that. And kind of new blood has really rejuvenated in the building, so our different events, and we're excited to have you and appreciate everything that you've done. So here I am, a couple months into my second year, and introducing the new school improvement plan for Z. This plan will cover this current school year, 2019 and 20, into the following school year, 2020 to 21. In my short time in Northborough, I've come to realize the power in this particular slogan, that we do have 10 schools, 3 districts, and 1 community, and even in just the Northborough community, having the 4 elementary schools and the middle school, we work closely together, staff, administration, so it really is a collaborative effort, and the dialogue helps to strive for consistency amongst all our schools. Our Vision 2020, although we're in the tail end of this vision, all of the work that's gone into the school improvement plan for Z focuses on these critical areas of communication, curriculum, student support, services, and technology. As we look at those 4 focus areas, we start with communication, which is extremely important. Really looking at communicating with all stakeholders within the, not only the district, but within the Z area, and really to enhance two-way communication. As we look at the curriculum district focus, we want to make sure that we continue to focus on teaching. That's aligned to both the standards and assessment, and making sure that we're delivering that in a rigorous manner. The final 2 focus areas of our district plan is student support, looking at enhancing those opportunities for all students, and making sure that we are tiering our work from Tier 1 to Tier 2 to Tier 3, and providing supports for the whole child. and technology, making sure that we're using technology in our teaching and learning, making sure children have access to technology, making sure that staff has professional development to enhance that technology to deliver their instruction. Collaboration really has been something that I've noticed and has become very evident working at the Z School, not only with agencies like the PTO and all of the community members, but really the power of that collaboration within our staff. It's really created, starting off creating relationships, and then those relationships lead to meaningful collaborative sessions with staff and students about inquiry. And this newly developed school improvement plan is proof of that collaboration. I want to make sure that I go back and I thank the school council from last year. A lot of the work that came into developing this plan happened over the first year at Z, and then has also evolved into a new. We had elections this year for a new school committee, so I want to make sure that last year I thank Matt Bertonazzi, Michelle Dallaire, who was a teacher representative, Stephanie Dennington, Lisa Gaskamp was a parent representative, Brian Kramer, also a teacher representative, Mary Ellen Remillard, teacher representative, and then Rajit Seth and Deidre Writing, the final two parent components of our school council. This particular year we had a voting, and we brought on Felicia Berry, as well as Rushmi Nafsinger will be our new parent representatives on the school council. Stephanie Dennington has remained a constant on the school committee. Katrina Ireland and Bonnie Krantz from the Northborough Library has joined us as community representatives, and Mary Ellen Remillard remains on the council as well, and we have a new staff member, Elizabeth Villaflor, who is a third grade teacher at Z, who's going to be part of the new school council. Through that collaborative work, our team has gotten together to create a new vision. Our vision is that all students will reach their full potential, developing as critical thinkers, empathetic community members, and lifelong learners who engage productively in society. And vision is something that we want for our students kind of as an end goal. Our work is defined by this statement. We worked together as a staff on the following vision, core values, and mission statement. And these statements are a reflection of the present consensus at Z School. So after we worked on our vision statement, it was very important for us to talk about our core values. A lot of the staff members wanted to make sure that we maintained our behavioral values, which were respect, responsible, and being safe. But we also wanted to kind of stretch out that conversation and go beyond just behavioral values and look at more almost intangible values. So we decided as a group that in order to achieve the Z School vision, we would foster an environment that is guided by the core values of curiosity to go beyond current knowledge and experience, respect the uniqueness of self and others, perseverance to work through challenges, responsibility to interact and contribute positively. And when you look at perseverance, I think about our school-wide book talk. Thank you. In relation to failure, and our staff really wanted to bring home the point that we wanted to encourage our students to make mistakes, that we learn from mistakes, and we wanted to land on more positive approach, which came with the word perseverance. So after our core values, we talked about our mission statement, which is really the day-to-day work. It represents the here and now, and it is presently where we want our schools to be and what we want to foster. The mission of the Marion E. Z School is to foster a learning environment that promotes acceptance, flexible thinking, and collaboration while developing students' ability to persevere in times of uncertainty and challenge. So this plan consists of two pretty hefty goals. The first one is the climate and school culture, which is really all the ongoings within the building, and our second goal revolves around curriculum. So we've really broken the school into two parts and tackled many different avenues. And I'm hoping that this is a 2-year plan that really starts to kind of find a focus area for the future plan, that we can really hone in on some details. So when you're thinking about climate and school culture, Z staff and students throughout the 1921 school years will engage in experiences that promote a positive and safe culture. And in order to do that, we will be working on some critical elements. We have developed a social emotional kind of critical team. So I meet with the school psychologist, behavior specialist, and the school nurse, and we talk about critical cases within the building, and just some things that we need to do. Who do we need to reach out to help those particular students? What collaboration in administration and staff members within the district, and also within the building. We want to make sure that we're engaging collaboratively with key staff members and consultants towards the development of a multi-tiered systematic approach to social emotional learning. And with that being said, tomorrow in our professional development day, we have invited Dr. Craig Murphy from Franklin. He works at the Few Center. He has done some work with Ross Green, and he will be presenting this multi-tiered approach to all 4 Northborough elementary schools at the high school tomorrow morning. So we're looking forward to that work. And then to stretch out that work with him, we've also hired him as a consultant, and he will be meeting with the critical teams within our buildings, within all 4, and providing consultations and case studies at each building. And we will kind of learn and collaborate from that work together. Within the school, we've done a lot of work on promoting and enforcing school-wide expected behaviors, going back to those values of being respectful, responsible, and safe, and teaching children that every kind of action that they have in the building boils down to those 3 things. We want to make sure that they are being respectful to their peers, responsible for themselves, and safe in all the actions that they carry out through the day. To further the work of social emotional development and really working on our climate and school culture, our staff is delivering weekly second step lessons, which is a social emotional learning curriculum, as well as it has a bullying program. This work is being supported by a theme team, which is made up of myself, the behavior specialist, school psychologist, occupational therapist, and speech and language therapists. We have each taken on a grade level, and we're teaming up with that grade level to provide one additional lesson at the grade level, not just the classroom, that is associated with their themes, which could be problem solving, listening skills, empathy, emotional development, as well as the bullying prevention. So we meet monthly to talk about our work with our grade levels and collaborate on our lessons that will move forward. As you heard from PTO, we're participating in promoting many school-wide community service projects, which I think adds to that climate and school culture in the building. We just finished up October, raising 1,500 pairs of socks, hats, and gloves for the Northborough Helping Hands, as well as the food drive. And our 5th grade this year has brought back their community service projects, and they're being led by a parent team to team up with the senior center to do a community service project throughout the year with just our 5th graders. In a response to some kind of work and conversations last year at the parent and student level and staff level, we really felt a need to bring back Mark from Bridgewater to do a presentation on bullying this year. So we are having 3 separate grade level span presentations by Mark. In the future, I think something nice to develop would be some parent forums and some parent presentations. And so I look forward to working with the PTO about thinking about holding some of those events at school, opportunities for parents. Just some visuals about some climate and school culture that's happening in our building. We had a whole school assembly on our expected behaviors. I talked briefly about Socktober. If you see the tree on the bottom left, we did a kindness tree where all students and staff engaged in writing a kind comment to a peer or a staff member and placing it on the kindness tree. We took part in Dot Day celebration, Apple Fest parade, walk bike to school, school assembly, and just having Mr. Phelps back in the building has been a nice addition, really turning his music room into a studio, and it's really kind of changed the climate. You can hear them playing down there, and the smiles on the children's faces is absolutely amazing. So Thursday night this week, we have our first coffee house, and students in 3rd, 4th, and 5th will be performing for their families. The second goal of the school improvement plan is for curriculum. In order to improve student outcomes in math and reading, the Z faculty members will align instruction to student learning needs based on the analysis of multiple sources of data. Looking at data is not new. What we want to change is kind of making it common practice, and not so much about the percentile data that you see in a data chart. But what is that observable data that you're seeing in the classroom? You know, what are kids saying to you? What are you seeing? What are you hearing? And having conversations about that. And after we look at results of assessments, we're looking at student work and really starting to dig in what we see students are doing, what strategies they're using. So we're really highlighting that work this year. We're working to calibrate our assessments and also the assessment parameters. So are students given the same amount of time to participate in an assessment? Is the classroom set up the same way? Just making sure that everybody's on an even playing field. We want to make sure that we're engaging in data analysis protocols. So I did some work over the summer with DataWise and trying to follow those protocols and have staff follow those protocols as well. We want to refine our instructional practices, again, not to just look at hard data, but are we observing, are we conferring, and listening to students? And what is that telling us? And then how are we collaborating that and making changes in the classroom? We want to measure the efficient use of strategies this year, which I think is really important if you look at the areas of math and reading. Again, you have a piece of hard data, but we want to look at is, for instance, in math, fact fluency. Once I see the score, I also want to know what strategy is a child using. Is it age appropriate, developmentally towards the benchmark, and how do I progress that student in a strategy use, as well as in the area of reading? How do I progress that student in decoding or making meaning to move those students forward? Some of the work within the classroom. Here is a picture of a grade 3 teacher delivering a actual small group lesson. It looks like a whole group lesson, but she has a small group on the carpet. What we don't see in that classroom is that there are students working independently in groups, and there is also an additional adult in the classroom that's working with a small group at a back table. And each group will rotate through a couple of times to be able to experience different entities within that classroom and throughout the week. On the right hand side, you'll see a little bit of the differentiated activities that were happening in that classroom that day. We have a math mat. People were working on multiplication, and also a couple of games there that students were participating in together to kind of practice those skills. We look at the area of reading. We also have a whole group read aloud, which students were being engaged in. We have teachers working one-on-one giving district-wide assessments. This teacher right here is administering the BAS assessment, our reading assessment. We have a small group first grade teacher here working in a guided reading group. First graders follow the Daily 5 protocol. So to the right, you'll see a Daily 5 rotation chart. So first graders are on that chart, and they know how to move their magnet when the chime rings and what stations to go to. And up above that, just a description of what does a reader's workshop look like and sound like. It's a typical anchor chart within a classroom. And that is the model that we want to see in both classrooms, whether it's in math or reading, some type of workshop station model where students are experiencing different things, either whole group, small group, one-to-one, or independent learning. So I think finally, as I began, this is all about collaboration and a shared vision of learning, and we're excited that together we can make a difference in the lives of each and every child within the Z community. Any questions?
Okay. On behalf of, these words of wisdom here. On behalf of the entire school committee, I'd like to thank you for this wonderful and comprehensive school improvement plan. I really, really like the format. And one part that I really like is the way that at the end of each goal, you put the district connections to it. That was really wonderful. The second thing is, from the Ed Reform Act of 1993, the composition of the members on the school council, they always ask for community representatives. I know sometimes it's hard to get, but I was glad to see that from the former plan to this new one, you have 2 community reps, and even plus on top of that, they're all important, but that they're from the library, and that's a wonderful connection going back and forth between the schools and at your school, between the library and the schools. I love the core values because I think those are lifelong attributes that we all, even as adults, should be adhering to, which are the curiosity, respect, perseverance, and responsibility. And I loved when you said that the perseverance is because we have to learn from our mistakes. I just heard something recently on TV, and more so about kids think that Thomas Edison, like he did it the first time. I mean, he just plugged something in and he had electricity and the light bulb went off. But it's the failures that they did previous of the success that helped them to be better. Even, Henry Ford and the Model T car and everything like that. So you do have to learn from your mistakes. You hate to do it, but you get down in the dumps and then you just bring yourself right back up again. I like the idea of also, I guess, is it conference day tomorrow that the teacher's going?
Professional Development Day.
It's Professional Development Day. And I really am interested in that, Dr. Craig Murphy, and wanted to know if you brought it up at, I don't know, through the chair and through Greg, if we can get some updates on this, because, we don't have a lot of parents here tonight, but it's amazing how many watch this on TV, and especially when you're talking about social and emotional.
Sure.
It's really good. So if we could get some updates through Greg, and if the chair would allow it, it would be really great. And I also, last thing, the bullying. We all have to be aware of that. So thank you very much for bringing up that little topic. Thank you. Great. Applauding. Great job. And thanks to your teachers and school council.
So.
So I just want to thank Principal Souls for her successful first year. She put in a tremendous effort to build relationships, to understand the culture, and I just want to acknowledge and thank your leadership at Z School.
Thank you. Thank you.
The next presentation we have is the MCAS presentation.
So each year, we receive our MCAS results, and Assistant Superintendent Rhoda Webb will give the community an overview of our aggregate results for the spring of 2019.
Bigger there.
Yeah, I know. I needed to get my forms. I'm just looking to see what other ones. Are there any other presentations I need to grab?
I'm sorry.
floating around.
We're going to have two presentations, yeah, so.
Yeah, two more, right? Yeah. I'm just gonna grab the whole packet.
You can sit right in front of the screen. They're doing so fancy.
Is that it? Someone else has their laptop on.
What, the blue thing?
Yeah.
Oh, that, oh, yeah. That's cool. There's so many changes to that stuff. It's there. Can't keep up.
Is it Apple AirPlay?
Someone
Someone else is connected.
someone else is connected. Because that's not my screen.
So,
I'm happy that there's multiple devices connected to it, though. Some the kinks to work out.
so no cable is connected to the laptop.
You ever use AirDrop? You have an iPhone or an Android?
iPhone.
You ever AirDrop?
Yeah.
Same thing.
Oh, yeah, because my
So-
daughter can do that in AirDrop.
Short range wireless connection.
In a room?
Yeah.
It can't be outside of a wall, though, could
I've
you?
been on a plane before, just randomly finding.
Finding?
Mess with them. Some people leave it open for people that are not on their contacts.
Thanks. Good evening. I am happy tonight to share with you the 2019 MCAS results for Northborough Public Schools. MCAS is an annual assessment that takes place in the spring and helps us understand how we can improve teaching and learning. The data provides district, school, and student accountability. So, the goals for today are to provide an update to school committee and community on MCAS, provide an overview of the MCAS online assessment environment, share spring 2019 MCAS results with you, and answer questions and discuss preparation for 2020 MCAS. So it's important to be able to look at the big picture and how MCAS fits into this context, and what happens at the state level that drives the work that happens in our district. So we'd like to highlight a few of these this year, and starting in 2016, Massachusetts adopted the Science, Technology, and Engineering Framework. As from 2016, there was the implementation of next generation MCAS assessment. In 2017, our Commonwealth revised the ELA and mathematics curriculum framework. And the following year, the Science Next Generation Assessment was implemented, and that was computer-based. In 2018, our state adopted the History and Social Science Framework, and in 2019, the Arts Framework was revised. And although the frameworks do not teach us how to teach, they do provide an understanding of the content and knowledge and skills that our students are supposed to know and be able to do by the end of a grade level or when they graduate from high school. What we notice with the next generation MCAS is that there is a shift in what students are expected to know and be able to do. So it's not only remembering and understanding the knowledge, but to be able to apply the knowledge that they are gaining, to be able to analyze it, evaluate, and create with it. And we do see that transpiring into the MCAS assessment. A little bit of background of what the Next Generation MCAS is all about. The format of the assessment now is computer-based in grades 4 through 8 for Northborough. And the content areas that are assessed are ELA, mathematics, and science for grades 5 and 8. So some of the changes that we saw when the MCAS became an online assessment were the universal accessibility features, which before were accommodations for students on IEPs, but now these universal features are accessible for all students. So a few of the tools that are available, as a reminder, are to highlight. Students can zoom, they can use a read liner, flag an item, there's audio, notepad, and item eliminator. The types of items that that the students see on the tests are multiple choice, multiple select, short responses, open responses, and essays in the genres of narrative, expository, or memoir. The achievement metric used with Next Generation MCAS is exceeding expectations, meeting expectations, partially meeting expectations, and not meeting expectations. And the growth metric used is a student growth percentile, or SGP. The test remains an untimed test, meaning that a student could use the whole day to complete a session, but it must be completed within the school day. There are additional accommodations for students on IEPs and for English learners as well, especially for the lower language proficiency levels. So looking at the metrics that we have for the MCAS, there are two metrics. The achievement levels are 4, exceeding expectations, meeting expectations, partially meeting, and not meeting expectations. And the other metric is the student growth percentile, which is measured on a scale from 1 to 99. And it compares like students over a 2-year period of time and the growth that they have made in that time. And a typical growth in growth percentile is between 40 and 60. Taking a closer look at the achievement levels, students receive scale scores, which are converted into the achievement levels of the 4 levels that we have already mentioned. And if a student receives a meeting expectations, it is considered that that student is working at grade level and is on track to succeed in that subject at that grade level by the end of the year. We'd like now to take a look at English language arts in grades 3 through 8 of spring 2019, and comparing how our district does to the state. We can see that Northborough outperforms the state in terms of performance. For example, the state performs at 42% in meeting expectation, whereas Northborough performs at 54%. The state performs at 10% in exceeding expectations, and Northborough performed at 12%. And our goal is always to be able to shift our students, that the students would grow from a not meeting expectations all the way to exceeding expectations. If we compare the MCAS scores for Northborough in English Language Arts, grade 3 through 8, from 2018 to 2019, we saw a slight increase in meeting expectations of our students, 52% in 2018, 54% in 2019. And we also saw a decline in students in not meeting expectations from 6% in 2018 it was lowered to 4% in spring 2019. This is a different way to look at the performance, at growth and achievement. So by looking at the x-axis at the bottom, which is a student growth percentile, and the y-axis, which is the percent meeting expectations and exceeding expectations, we can see 4 quadrants. The upper right quadrant is high growth, high achievement. The lower right quadrant is high growth, low achievement. The lower left quadrant is low growth, low achievement. And the upper left quadrant is low growth, high achievement. And the goal of the district is to be in the upper right quadrant, that is high growth, high achievement. And that's where the green dot is indicating that in Northborough we had a 51 student growth percentile and 66% of meeting and exceeding expectations. And that's exactly where we would want to be, in high growth and high achievement. Looking at a summary of English language arts and more detail of the 4 schools, we see that in student growth percentile, overall score we achieved at a 52%. In meeting or exceeding expectations in 2019, it was an overall of 68%. And in growth and achievement, all our schools were in typical growth and high achievement. So overall, that's where our schools fell within the category of typical growth and high achievement. We will shift now to mathematics. And in terms of mathematics performance, the state compared to our district outperforms the state. For example, in meeting expectations, the state reached 40%, whereas our district reached 49%. And the state had 9% in exceeding expectations, whereas our district had 15% in exceeding expectations. Again, our goal is to be able to move from not meeting expectations to exceeding expectations. If we want to compare our scores in mathematics from 2018 to spring of 2019, we saw a decrease in partially meeting expectations in our scores, and an increase in exceeding expectations from 11% in 2018 to 15% in 2019. And if we look at a visual representation of growth and achievement in grades 3 through 8, again, Northborough was within the high growth, high achievement with 54% student growth percentile and 64% in meeting and exceeding expectations. So again, once again, in the upper right quadrant. And the mathematics performance summary. This is an analysis of how each of our schools performed with a student growth percentile, the percent meeting expectations and exceeding, and the overall growth and achievement. All our schools reached the typical growth, high achievement, with a 56% mean SGP, or student growth percentile, and the overall growth and achievement of meeting expectations and exceeding expectations was 67%. The very important question is, how do we use the data in our district? And every school analyzes the information received. There is a wealth of information provided by the Department of Education. So each of our schools is able to disaggregate data by the subgroups, identify areas of growth, analyze each student's individual results, use the results to inform our teaching, and always triangulate MCAS data with our local assessments. And at the district level, we use the information to look for patterns and trends over time. We evaluate our curriculum as well and look for areas of growth, identify the priority areas, and we're always monitoring our state assessment landscape for new information or changes. As we said, the Department of Education provides us with a wealth of information. And in this last slide, this information can be found on the Department of Education, the district profiles. And there's also more information there that families can take a look at. There is also a parent's guide to MCAS, explaining what MCAS is about and giving parents more information. And there's also a digital MCAS library that our teachers use to be able to, there are released test items there, as well as exemplar responses to open responses and essay questions. So thank you for your attention, and that is a landscape of our MCAS Spring 2019 assessments.
Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you, Ms. Webb. Can you go back to the English Language Arts Performance Summary slide?
Yes.
I'm curious what you or Mr. Martineau make of the SGP changes 18 to 19. Was there a substantial change in the way the test was designed?
So
it's pretty significant.
So the student growth percentile, it's a cohort comparison.
Mm-hmm.
So it takes, it's a 2-year comparison. It's compared to like students who scored in that band. So we have seen years where we've seen a mean SGP where it's been typically high. The next year, in terms of the cohort data, tends to be moderated a bit with 53. But again, it's a different metric and a different way of looking at it. Quite frankly, the SGP difference between 2018 and 2019 is not concerning to me because it is that cohort comparison over a 2-year period.
So you expect it to kind of level, it can't sustain a
Yeah, so I would imagine that,
pace indefinitely.
you know, I would anticipate that next year's SGP increases for students.
Thank you.
You're welcome, John.
Thank you for the wonderful presentation. I have several, just 3 questions. Were there any glitches in administering the test with technology in the spring of 2019? District-wide, were there any?
I don't think so.
You ran pretty smoothly, though.
So it was very smooth. I think the technology department begins its planning actually right around now and spends all end of fall, winter planning and working with teachers and doing trainings. And we had over the past 2 years, a very seamless implementation of MCAS 2.0.
And do all the elementary schools take it at the same time, or do they, so that we have enough of the technology, iPads or whatever, for the students? Do they travel from school to school, so are they on different schedules, so that we have enough technology?
So we have plenty of technology, but we do try to scaffold when students take the assessments between schools, because tech support is, we try to deploy tech support as needed, and make sure that it's staffed appropriately if there are issues that come about in a school during a testing cycle. So we do create a calendar, a schedule, and typically 1 or 2 schools are testing at the same time.
So it isn't just 1 or 2, which is good, okay. 2 more. On the 5th slide, which is called the Next Generation MCAS, under the universal accessibility features, I was just curious about Line Reader. What is that tool? Because I'm thinking that would have to be audio, right? I'm thinking of Line Reader as if a child cannot read the line, someone, you could press a button and it's going to read that for them? Or is that not what a line reader is?
So it actually will underline as you read, as you move the cursor.
Oh, okay. I thought it was part of audio. I was going to say, wow.
Yep.
Check about, you know, you're supposed to be reading on grade level for the MCAS or higher, so I'm like, okay, this is great. Thank you for clarifying that. And then my last question was, when did the parents receive the students' report? And is that done at parent conferences? Can they ask, I think it gets sent home, but if parents have questions, can they bring that up during parent conferences?
So the reports were mailed home, I think the beginning of October. And absolutely, if parents have questions about their child's performance, they can ask the classroom teacher.
Mm-hmm. And I think this is just one piece of data.
It is one piece.
It's only one piece of
Right.
data. I mean, just as the previous Z-School principal mentioned, you know, in her school improvement plan that they use data. So this is just one of many different sources that give us a
That's right.
snapshot of a child. And we don't have to worry about it until we worry about it, but it's not something that's required until they get to high school that they have to pass
For
the
graduation, that's right.
And I know the level of the test gets harder from 3rd grade to 4th grade.
That's correct.
Much harder.
That's correct.
Thank you.
I'm still looking at the ELA chart. So there are a couple schools, Lincoln and MZ, that had 10, 11% percentage point drops in from 18 to 19% meeting or exceeding. Is that also not significant or something that's being looked at?
Well, it's something that's important to look at, but we have small populations in our neighborhood schools, so where we might have a population size of 38 versus a large population. So the data actually looks a little different if we had a population of 100 or 150, and we are looking at why is that? Is it what was the baseline of the students performing at that particular grade level at that time? But I think part of the challenge is it's such a small population at that grade level from year to year that it can skew the data.
Does this lump 3rd through 8th all together?
What are you?
The performance summary. If you could just bring it back, the ELA performance summary. Is it
So
all
the
grades?
It's 70. So it's each school, and then the aggregate is the total.
So 3rd through 5th if it's showing in elementary school?
Correct. Yeah.
Right, so if I read across Proctor and I look at a percentage, that
is aggregate.
Aggregate 3rd through 5th. And isn't there a science component at this point as well?
There is, yeah. In 5th grade.
Only 5th?
Only 5th.
So did the district have that data as well?
We do.
Is there a reason it wasn't reported in this?
We typically have not reported the science data, but we'd be happy to.
Yeah, it feels like, the parents get it as a report. So
That's right.
I got it as a parent, so now
Yeah.
I was kind of expecting it here, so
We can add that.
that would
yeah.
be interesting.
Thank you. You're welcome. So I guess the next item on the agenda is the KAELL presentation.
So with us this evening is Jennifer Suker, who will provide us with an update on our ELL population. So welcome, Jennifer.
Thank you. And I am not using the projector,
So come back up.
So first off, I want to thank all of you for the opportunity to talk about Northborough English learners. By definition, an English learner, or what we used to call English language learner, is a student whose first language is not English and who is currently not able to perform ordinary classroom work in English. Second, I wanted to state that you may hear me use several acronyms this evening, as this field in particular is full of them. You might hear me refer to an English learner simply as an L, and a former English learner as a FEL. You might also hear me say SEI, which stands for Sheltered English Immersion. This is the type of instruction that teaches academic content to English learners. There are others too, and I will do my best to finding them as I go along, but please do not hesitate to ask. So all students exposed to another language need to be screened for English language proficiency to ensure that the students have the level of academic English needed to be successful in our classrooms. If a student qualifies as an EL, English learner, this student requires specialized programming. The program that we have in place in Northborough, as well as our other 2 districts, is called Structured English Immersion. This comprises 2 parts: English language development, also known as English as a second language, and structured content instruction, SCI. This means the student must receive both English language development, or ESL, taught by a licensed ESL teacher, and be placed in SEI classrooms, which are classrooms where the teacher has an SEI endorsement and instruction is scaffolded according to the language proficiency of the student. English learners are not a homogeneous group, and they definitely don't have a fixed profile. There are many factors that we take into consideration when working with our students, and we learn about these factors by spending time talking to each family or guardian upon registering their child. From this family interview, we garner information about their children. We learn about their child's educational background, home language and use of languages, consistency in school, mobility, if they come from urban or rural settings, possible trauma, individual factors that may impact learning, learning challenges and strengths, possible or diagnosed disabilities, and their child's post-secondary goals when applicable. Tonight we are going to look at some data that was captured in October of our current school year for Northborough. There are 3 graphs with information to share tonight. The first graph is this one here, the blue one. The first graph is the Northborough preschool to grade 8 English learner and former English learner student population trend analysis. This graph shows our growth since 2004 when we started with just 32 English learners. Please note the data between 2005 and 2008 are skipped so that more recent data could be added to this graph. The numbers above the dark blue or purple bars indicate the number of students or number of English learners in the program every year. The numbers above the light blue bars indicate the number of students reclassified or exited from the program and who need to be monitored for 4 years to ensure continued growth in their learning. This is the 3rd time that we have captured 4 years of reclassified students since the new regulation to go from monitoring FELs for 2 years to 4 years was issued in the 2017-2018 school year. Taking a look at both English learners and former English learners gives a more complete picture of the number of students in the district being instructed, as well as actively monitored by the English language development or ELD teachers. This year, there are 97 English learners and 55 former English learners. That makes 152 students in all. As of October 26th, 96 students in K-8 have been tested for their English language proficiency in Northborough, and 34 of these students qualified as ELs. The number of students tested is not reflected in the graph. However, it's important to know because by law, every student exposed to another language needs to be screened for English language proficiency, and the intake assessment can take well over 2 hours per student. In our preschool at Finn, as of October 31st, 27 out of 49 Northborough students have been exposed to other languages for a total of 17 different languages, bringing great richness into our community. This is where the greatest growth may be seen. At this time, 8 of these students have qualified as dual language learners. That is the term that we use for preschoolers. And our focus for now has mostly been with the 4-year-olds at the preschool. The second page shows the home languages of our English learners. So this one right here. and also former English learners in pre-K to grade 8. This year, Portuguese continues to be the predominant language, followed by Spanish, Arabic, Chinese, Hindi, Telugu, Russian, Japanese, Korean, French, Marathi, Punjabi, Turkish, Vietnamese, Albanian, Gujarati, Haitian Creole, Tagalog, Tamil, Twi, and Urdu. If a family cannot read in English, the district is required by law to translate school documents and reports. The third graph, with the orange bars here, is an analysis of the language proficiency levels of our students in kindergarten through grade 8. Along the horizontal axis are the 5 levels of language proficiency. Entering, which we sometimes call level 1, emerging, level 2, low developing, 3, high developing, also 3, expanding 4, and bridging 5. If you look at the first bar, you can see that 13.48% of our L's are at the entering level. At the emerging level, almost 18%, low developing 31.46%, high developing 4.49%, 30.34% at the expanding level, or level 4, and bridging 2.25%. Below each level is the actual number of students. So hopefully you can see that. And below that is the amount of hours of ESL instruction that is recommended by DESE. So at the foundational level, 7.5 hours per week, which equates to about 2 45-minute blocks a day. And at the transitional level, 3 3/4, about 45 minutes a day. These data are important in order to understand the complexity of scheduling ELD instruction, as well as the ESL staff that is needed to instruct these students. For example, 69.92% of our students are in levels 1, 2, and low level 3. They need at least 90 minutes of instruction per day. It is challenging for students who are beginning to learn English to function in a classroom, and it is crucial to provide the intensity and quality of ELD instruction our students need in order to make effective progress in their acquisition of English. Additionally, students at levels high 3, 4, and 5, which comprises 37.08%, continue to require direct instruction because the academic demands are more intense. Realizing these demands on the students, we have an after-school program for English learners that is offered once a week at Millikan. And I know I have presented to you before about the summer program that we offer each year, and this past August being around coding. I mentioned earlier that the programming for English learners is structured English immersion. The RETEL initiative, which stands for Rethinking Equity in Teaching English Language Learners, is a federal mandate in Massachusetts. It started in August of 2013 for Northborough. The SEI endorsement is a requirement for all of our core academic teachers. Core academic includes English, math, science, civics and government, economics, history and geography, special education, and career and vocational, as well as principals, assistant principals, directors, anybody who supervises these teachers. The SEI course is designed to train teachers to work with L's from levels 3 and up, not levels 1 and 2. And yet the same graduation expectations hold for all students. This is a very important initiative, but it does not address our immediate situation to provide everything needed for our students at the foundational level. We focus on every angle of education for all of our students, of course, and this includes special education. Over the years, we have done a lot of work in understanding second language acquisition and learning disabilities. In addition to MCAS, which our L's certainly have to take, they also take a standardized test every year that's put out by a company called WIDA, and it's called Access for L's, formerly called Access for L's 2.0. Access stands for Assessing Comprehension and Communication in English State to State for English language learners, and WIDA stands for World Class Instructional Design and Assessment. This test occurs annually, every January or February. There's a window of time that we administer the test, and it assesses a student's English proficiency in the 4 domains, so speaking, reading, writing, and listening. Our L's in grades 1 through 8 test online, with the writing portion being on paper for grades 1, 2, and 3. Kindergartners are assessed individually, not on the computer. And the ELD teachers are trained biannually to administer these tests. As far as family outreach, we continue to have a really strong homeschool relationship with our families, and we certainly encourage that partnership. We've already mentioned our family interviews that we do as part of our intake process for new students. That helps us to get to know the students and the parents and guardians well. We also like to work with the parents and guardians if they have limited English themselves. We talk about opportunities for them, such as the conversation circles offered at the Northborough Public Library. Also, the adult ESL programs in surrounding areas. There's one at Quinsigamon Community College. There's one at Assabet After Dark in Marlborough. In terms of families, we also hold an international night at Algonquin every year. Last year we had our third one. We had a little over 300 attendants. So it was most excellent, and we bring together the families both in Northborough and Southborough, English learners and former English learners. And this year we will have an international night again. It will be May 1st to celebrate the diversity that we have. And certainly our schools continue to bring our families into the schools at the school level as well, not just as a district. Some schools have things like coffees or parent information sessions. Principals are often asked to join, ELD teachers, and we figure out what the needs are of the parents and try to provide that for them. And as our entire district tries to become more culturally proficient, it is important that we have this partnership with the families. In general, there is just wonderful collaboration with the team and teamwork within our ELE department and other departments, and we are just trying to ensure that their students are receiving an outstanding education. We feel that they are, and I thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak.
Thank you. Any questions? Thank you so much for your presentation.
Oh, absolutely.
I had a question about students taking the intake exam.
Yes.
Is there ever an instance where a student may pass the intake exam, but then because as they progress in school, they may find that there's a deficit in their learning, and so then they would take it again and then be placed as a certain level? Does that ever happen?
That's a great question. I've been doing this for 14 years. I can tell you this, certainly sometimes maybe, I guess I see what you're saying, sometimes the screener may not pick up on an area of growth maybe with the language, but once it is apparent that the student needs help with that, yeah,
Exactly,
sure,
yeah.
we could rescreen. There would be no reason that we couldn't.
And is that usually something that is brought forward by a teacher, by a parent, by a student? How does that process work?
It can happen in any of those instances. We have ELD teachers in each of our buildings, and in some cases, sometimes more than one, so it is not uncommon if there's a concern for a classroom teacher to reach out. And then the ELD teacher may look at work samples, may make an observation, and things like that.
Well, thank you so much. I mean, as you read off all the languages that are spoken by our families, clearly there's a need for EL services, and I really thank you for all that you're doing here.
Absolutely.
Jennifer, again, I will echo what Lauren said. Thank you for your presentation. You talked about how the papers that go home to the parents are, if it's a spoken language, it gets translated into them. How do we do that? Is there a program on a computer or something, or one of you taking it and putting it in the language? I was very curious.
I have the English Language Education Office. We also provide translation service and interpretation services for our families, so we do contract out with translators and interpreters to ensure that the families get the information that they need.
Okay.
Right.
And then, what about if a parent that gets these materials translated, are they able to request a translator at a parent conference? I think if it's a special ed conference, one has to be provided, but if it's a general ed, does the translator if the parent requests it, could be there?
Absolutely. So when all of our families register in our schools across Massachusetts, really, they fill out a home language survey. And on that home language survey that they're filling out in their home language, there are questions that ask them whether they require an interpreter or translator. Sometimes they require neither, sometimes both, sometimes one and not the other. And yes, we honor that, and we do provide interpretation and translation for both the gen ed setting and special ed setting.
You guys are kept quite busy.
We are, yes.
I wanted to know, it seems to be a data night tonight. You said about the preschool, and I think it's so good, even in special ed, we do that. And I think I spoke at one of the May meetings and saying, I don't think we're a kindergarten through 12th grade, we're almost like a preschool through 12th grade. You talked about the numbers, about 27 out of 49 students tested. Have you looked at any data to see if this is increasing? And if so, does that have any effect as you follow those kids up, so we know through budget seasons we're going to have more ELL teachers or something? Is that number increasing, or?
It is. It has increased, certainly in the preschool, and our preschool in general at Finn is growing. And it's becoming more linguistically diverse. We have a preschool ELD tutor. We would be looking to make it a teacher position. And right now we have increased our number of ELD teachers at the lower elementary levels to support the number of students.
So it seems like that's going to be something that's on the horizon that might forefront in the back of our minds as we go forward in budget season, where we may have to add on or, do a good job of having the staff go to different schools or something. So, and then you talked about an after-school program here at the Melican.
Yes.
What grades is that for?
It's for 6 through 8, and so any English learner can come to it, and that student.
Okay, I didn't know if it was K through 5. I was going to ask about bringing kids here, but it's just here at Melican.
It is just here at Melican.
6
right
to
now.
8. Okay, and the SEI endorsement, is the state still providing free funding for teachers to get the SEI endorsement?
No, the teachers are on their own now.
They're on their own.
Yes.
Okay, so are college graduates coming out with that?
In Massachusetts, yes.
They are?
Yes.
Okay.
So the only teachers who aren't, if they're coming from out of state, but are, yes, certainly the newly minted teachers all have the endorsement.
Okay. Thank you for answering all my questions.
You're welcome.
Great, thank you so much.
Thank you.
So we also have a presentation from Rhoda Webb on the seal of biliteracy. A year and a half ago, a bill was passed, language opportunities for our kids, and part of that bill was the implementation of a seal of biliteracy. We also had a World Language Study Group, pre-K through 12, study language in our district and make some recommendations. So this evening, Rhoda will share information about the seal of biliteracy and some recommendations made by our World Language Study Group. We have a lot of movement breaks, so, moving up and down. And
I closed out the presentation, so I have to search it. Here it is. So this evening, I will be giving you an update from the World Language Study Group, and specifically the seal of biliteracy. I will be addressing 3 questions. What is the seal of biliteracy? Why implement it? And who awards the seal? So the Seal of Biliteracy is an award given by a school or a district in recognition of students who have studied and attained a high level, functional level, and academic levels of proficiency in listening, speaking, reading, and writing in 2 or more languages by high school graduation. The Seal of Biliteracy is important to offer because it encourages our students to pursue biliteracy. It honors the skills students attain in another language. It is evidence of the skills that are attractive also to future employers, and college admission offices are starting to pay attention to this, and it is definitely viewed as an asset for our students. It begs asking the question, why learn a second language? And it is clear that for students to thrive and succeed in the 21st century, it is important to cultivate our students' understanding of a complex and diverse and interdependent world in which they live. And research shows that becoming bilingual has long-term cognitive, cultural, and economic benefits. If we think about children learning 2 languages who have familiarity with 1 or more cultures, the advantage that they have is understanding that there are different points of views, and they're able to communicate effectively in someone else's language while addressing issues that come up across the globe. And also studying language and cultures enables our students to think more creatively and critically. And it also enhances our students' ability to understand and adapt to a changing world as a foundation for global competence. A little bit of research as skills that are attractive to future employers. This is just one survey of human resource managers that the participants in this survey reported that proficiency in a foreign language was a consideration in their hiring decisions at 42% of the firms. And when needing to retain employees, they reported that 66% of the time, given that every other qualification was equal, they would retain a bilingual employee. So why are we interested in implementing the Seal of Biliteracy in our district? First of all, because it promotes and it validates the learning of languages in addition to English, which starts at middle school here in our district. It encourages the enrollment of language learning for our students as they move from Melican into Algonquin. It also helps shape our students' initial attitudes and informs them about the value of language diversity. It strengthens our intergroup relationships and honors the multiplicity of languages and cultures in our communities. And it especially prepares our students with 21st century skills that will help them in their future careers and work. So who awards the Seal of Biliteracy? So it is actually Algonquin that will be awarding the Seal of Biliteracy by high school graduation of students. This has been a multi-year implementation in our district. Last year, spring of 2019, our students here taking a world language at Melican Middle School took a language assessment called the STAMP in Spanish and French, and that gave important information to our teachers to the levels that our students had attained by the end of studying world language here at Melican in listening, speaking, reading, and writing. That information was then shared with Algonquin world language teachers as our students entered 9th grade this year. Year 2 implementation is this year. So our students taking a world language here at Melican will take the language proficiency assessment again in the spring. And then our students in a world language subject areas at Algonquin who have attained a level 4 will be taking the assessment in Spanish and in French. The name of the assessment chosen by our district, the Department of Education, now this is a state seal, so the Department of Education gives districts the option of different assessments to use. And we have chosen the STAMP assessment for the variety of languages that it offers. So for the first time, students at Algonquin will be taking this assessment at level 4. There is criteria to earn the seal, and this is actually an insignia on a graduate's diploma. At the high school level, to earn a seal award, there are 2 things that a student has to be able to attain. In the foreign language assessment, it's an intermediate high level, and that student also needs to pass MCAS when they take ELA in grade 10 and achieve a meeting expectations level. There's also the possibility of attaining a seal award with distinction, and that is on the STAMP assessment or the foreign language assessment, achieve an advanced low level, and on the MCAS ELA in grade 10, exceeds expectations. The exciting piece about this is that also our English learners can participate in this assessment, because in that case, their second language is English. So they would have to take the STAMP assessment for Spanish or Portuguese or French, but their challenge would be to attain the levels on the MCAS assessment. So this is bringing all our students together to be able to achieve the seal of biliteracy. A little bit more about the STAMP assessment. We piloted, as I said, last spring, and that gave important information to our world language teachers. It informed the language proficiency of our students. The results were very encouraging, and we're using that as baseline data with students starting a world language or continuing a world language at Algonquin. So the recommendations coming out of the World Language Study Group was the proposal to offer a full year of language study at grade 6 in Spanish or French for school year 2021. To take a look at the possibility of an exploratory language study at grade 5 in Spanish and French, and taking a look if that's a possibility, if it's feasible for school year 2022, and also to see if there's a possible model for pre-K through grades 4, and make a recommendation to the school committee for school year 2021. So thank you for this possibility to share with you, and this is very exciting news that we are launching at Algonquin as spring of this year.
Kelly?
Just 2 quick questions. Thank you so much for that. It's great. First question is, what is level 4? When you say language at Algonquin World Language Studies level 4?
Yes, that's a beginner would be a level 1. So that's the level that they have, that students achieve in speaking another language. So it's a pretty high level. It would be like a mid-intermediate level.
Okay, and then full year language studies, grade 6, Spanish and French. Are those the only languages that are taught, Spanish and French?
At Ms. Shalkarv's right behind you, so yes.
At Millikan, yes. So in our, from K through 8, those are the only 2 options, basically.
Yes.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Rhoda, thank you
Yes.
so much for this
Oh, you're welcome.
presentation. I think the other time I heard it was at the regional.
Right.
Or combined. And, I mean, fantastic. It really is. And just to clarify something, this is not something that's mandated from the state, the seal of biliteracy, correct?
Correct.
This is something that you and the superintendent and the teachers have decided would be a good plus and a positive for kids to have in the foreign language department.
So our district has chosen to bring the seal of biliteracy into, the state seal of biliteracy into our district.
And I
That
think
is correct. So it's over several years that a study group was taking a look at this to see the value that it had for our students.
And I think this is wonderful because it's showing that we're going over and above. We're not just doing what is mandated by the state, but we're looking to enhance and to give our students a richer curriculum and something with a seal by literacy to have on their graduation, because we are a multicultural nation, and the students going out, in today's world, it's so marketable to be bilingual into this. And I know that and I shared it with you, that there was Connecticut is already doing it, and I was talking to a teacher from Connecticut who just had nothing but rave reviews for this. I like the idea of, going back on this kind of research, going back on your recommendations, and doing that language study at grade 6 and going into pre-K through 4. As I had said to you in our discussions, is that I think it's very important for parents to be aware of when they're doing coursework for their students or deciding what, if they do a foreign language when they're here at the middle school, should they do it, because it really helps if they are in 8th grade. How is this going to be communicated to the parents when they start? Will the foreign language teachers, do they, at the Melican Middle School, do they talk to all the kids about a foreign language in 7th grade that they want to take when they're in 8th grade? So will this also be brought up at the same time?
Are you asking me a question?
I'm throwing it out to the whole general audience, but I'm looking at you, Michelle, so I guess you would be.
What's the question? Is it about the seal specifically or foreign language?
How is this concept going to be communicated to the students so they are aware of this, so they don't go into 9th grade and say, gee, I wish I would have known in 8th grade, I would have taken 1 year of it?
So right now at Melican, students enter a language at 7th grade, officially either Spanish or French, and 2 years of a language at the middle school here and at Trotter in Southborough equates to 1 full year at Algonquin of a language. So that is what we've done historically. That's what we do right now. Our 6th graders are also involved in language, but it meets 2 days a week, and they get a bit of French and a bit of Spanish, so they can make an informed decision about a language in 7th grade. Our hope and our goal is for all students to be in our language program by 7th grade. This year we have a greater percentage, I don't have the numbers with me now, of students enrolled in Spanish or French, so they do understand the importance of it. As far as the seal of biliteracy, though, it is very new to the district, so what parents know about that right now is that 8th graders last year took the first assessment to gain benchmark data. So that's it. Once we have a bit more of an understanding of how the seal of biliteracy is going to roll out, that will be communicated to families at Melican when it is communicated across the district. So I don't know if I answered your question, but we definitely have been educating kids and families around the importance of taking a world language. This gives us another reason to encourage it, but we have been and will continue to encourage kids to take a language for all of the reasons that we just heard about. But the seal of biliteracy will perhaps be an added reason to encourage families to subscribe to a language for their children.
Okay. Yes, you did answer my question. I just needed the clarification. And when something's brand new, how do we disseminate that information out? And as anything, you start small and you build upon it. I want to make sure that the parents and students are aware of this as we go forward. Not right, maybe not now, but when it gets to course selection or something like that. So thank you.
So this is, again, thank you guys for the presentation. Reading through these recommendations, I think it's something that, looking forward through the years of the incorporating some new ideas to get this incorporated, we should bring it to maybe budget subcommittee, because I think this is also going to have some budgetary impacts that we will need to discuss, and also maybe discuss it within the prioritization of the budgetary goals and what we need to move forward and go through with that. Thank you again.
Excellent.
Wonderful idea. The next item on the agenda is we have the MASC Joint Conference. This is recap, but actually hasn't happened yet, so there is no recap yet. It is an update. The conference begins on this Wednesday, November 6th, and concludes on November 9th. We'll have an update for next month.
Absolutely.
So I don't think there's anything on there that we need to discuss. So we can move forward to the next agenda item, which would be legislative update.
So just a quick update on the Opportunity Act. The bill was passed through the Senate and the House, and now it sits in the Joint Conference Committee. We did hear the governor speak at a recent Chamber of Commerce meeting, and he's anticipating that it will be on his desk before Thanksgiving, and he anticipates it will be passed. So it will provide additional $1.4 billion of funding to education over a 7-year period. And we're looking forward to seeing how that will impact our upcoming budget season, but also future finances through education funding.
Great. Thank you. Moving ahead, we have approval of grants and or donations.
So the Fitzgerald family has generously donated to pay for 3 attendees to the Mass Down Syndrome Congress Conference. And this year, 3 Melican educators will be attending due to the generous donation of the Fitzgeralds. And they've talked about the great partnership that's existed between the school and their family to help their child reach his greatest potential. And as a sign of appreciation, they've giving us 3 conference passes.
So I'll entertain a motion to approve.
I move, with much thanks, that we approve the donation of 3 conference passes donated by Bill Fitzgerald's donation to the Melican Middle School.
Any other comments? Again, extend our thanks and gratitude to our wonderful vote. All in favor? Yes, yeah. We'll extend our thanks to the family for that generous donation of conference passes. The next item on our agenda is a Commonwealth Municipality Vulnerability Preparedness Program. We had an opportunity to have a school committee member attend that this past month. Joan, did you want to speak to that?
Sure. In the packet is just a quick overview. I won't read from it unless you really want me to. What happened at the meeting, and that took place last Tuesday, and the town of Northborough had received a grant that facilitated this group to get together, and it was representative from all the town departments, and I'd like to thank Sue Lawrence for allowing me to be the representative from the K-8 school district. And Greg Martineau, as superintendent, also attended, and this consisted of us at the workshop coming up with a matrix of items that we thought that might be town-based items that will improve our town's resilience to climate change. At that meeting, we came up with a matrix. The follow-up will be that there will be an open session for all of the residents to attend. And then from that, then there will be a grant that will be written by this group by the Weston and Sampson. And it will be then this grant submitted in April of 2020. So just be aware of any town news, because the next thing will be an open public forum for the town of Northborough residents to get more information on it. And besides school being representative, State Senator James Eldridge was there, John Cordair from the town, Jason Perot from the chairman of the Board of Selectmen, and the various other departments. So it was an all-day affair, but it was very worthwhile. And thank you for allowing me to be the representative.
Thank you so much. Any questions? All right, great, thank you so much. The next item we have on the agenda is old business. There's none at this time. And we need the superintendent to participate beginning with enrollments.
Sure. So in your packet, we have the monthly enrollments for October. Our total enrollment at this time is 1596, and if you turn over the document on the back side, it talks about that we've received 10 new students since the last September report. So a significant number of new students since September. Also in your packet is our annual NESDEC historical enrollment and projected enrollment report. This is an important document as we plan our FY21 budget. And the 2021 enrollment projections is 2,461 for Northborough, or -4 students from where we stand today. So not a significant variance. But as we know, we had significant enrollment increases in kindergarten this past fall. And if I were to project, I would predict that we'd see another increase in RK enrollment for FY21. Our packet is the monthly general fund expenditure report, and I'll have Becky give a quick recap.
As you can tell from last month, there are no significant variances. We are continuing to closely monitor this. We're actually meeting on a very regular basis, working with student support services to just check some of the students that have been identified this year for out-of-district needs. But as we compare to last year, we are tracking very closely. We have encumbered more this year than we had in previous years, so that we have a better idea as to what we have coming up for this fiscal year. So at this point last year, we had 2.76 of our entire budget that had been encumbered or spent, and our budget balance was $670,000, which is very close to, as you can see, to where we are at this point in time.
Do we take a vote? Oh, motion first and then we'll discuss.
Okay, I move that we accept the FY 2020 budget monthly general fund expenditure report as of October 31st, 2019.
I'll second.
Until audited?
Yeah.
Did you have a comment, Joan, before?
No, I'm sorry.
I thought you did. All right, great. All those in favor?
Thank you.
Great, yeah. Thank you.
We thought you were pondering something very important.
Right.
No, I think her comment was basically, can we?
Can we, yeah, that,
Is it, yeah.
can we?
That was it.
Should we?
Can we do it?
Can we do?
All right, thank you.
So next in your packet is the FY21 budget goals, which we discussed in October, and we thought we'd let them sit for a month and come back to them. Basically, the change that the committee recommended was in the last bullet, and that was to change, determine the feasibility of transitioning to a tuition-free kindergarten program to implement the transition plan to a tuition-free kindergarten program.
I know we always say we don't like to have too many goals, and we already have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I hate to give an 8th one, but Sue had brought it up on the recommendations from,
Right.
okay, and that was on the biliteracy. Is there any way that we can tweak it and maybe put, you know, the biliteracy into this, or do you think that it is already covered underneath something else? One of the goals we already have.
I thought we were gonna need to do we discussed, I think, last month, about waiting to do like an overhaul of the goals because we're going to do the vision plan of 2025, I believe. So we were discussing just basically editing minor edits to these ones and then doing like an overhaul for the next ones.
Okay.
So you mean FY22?
No,
No, the
the
strategic-
vision.
Vision
Strategic
2020.
plan.
Vision 2020, because we're in Vision 2020, we're finishing the final year.
Okay.
So what was discussed at the last meeting was that it doesn't really make sense to kind of rework all these and introduce new goals.
Okay. So
for
we'd wait
just this
until
final
next year.
year. So
This would be for this year.
this is for this year, we're kind of just
Okay.
continuing on, just finishing out for the the
Strategic
Vision
plan.
2020.
Okay.
And
That's fine.
then we'll work on making them more elaborate for fiscal year 2022, because we're going to be working on this January, I believe we said, the Vision 2025. So we were thinking of like,
Okay.
that's what was discussed last month. I mean.
No, that's,
you-
that's fine.
But I understand, Joan, what your question is, because for the recommendations for the CELT bioliteracy, is a full year of language study at grade 6 for FY '21. I don't know what implications that is with the budget. If
Yeah,
you
I mean,
could
I
speak
think
to that,
that-
Greg, as far as.
Yeah, so I think that when I look at the budget priorities that we've discussed,
Mhm.
we still have a significant implementation of the transition plan to tuition-free kindergarten program. You know, it's early in the budget season to look at where we are in terms of finances and projecting forward. I think it is wise to wait to put anything too specific in until
Okay.
we do reauthorize our strategic plan and set some goals. And I think maybe having a more broadly written bullet that encompasses some of the programs that we want to think about adding in the future.
Okay, that's fine. Because I could see how this could even, just as long as we keep this in the back of our minds,
Mhm.
because I could see how it could go under bullet number 1, to support high-quality staff and instructional programs. Okay, so it could fit in there, or providing support for programs and professional development, just as long as we keep this into our mind, which I think we all do, going forward. And I like Kelly's suggestion, so that's good. I'm sorry, because I missed that from last month.
No problem.
Okay.
We need a vote
So
on
we
this.
do need a vote.
Keith?
I move to accept the budget goals as presented today, the FY 2021 budget goals. Yeah.
I'll second.
Any more discussion? All those in favor? Great. Move forward with that.
Yeah, we're gonna open all those things with.
So next in your packet is a draft of the FY 2021 through FY 2027 Facilities Capital Plan. The capital plan subcommittee met prior to this meeting, so this will be brought back to the committee at its December meeting for review and the vote. In your packet, next is the FY '21 budget calendar. And the last event was this evening, the 11/4 Capital Planning Subcommittee meeting. And the budget process is just beginning, so many more meetings to come.
So next item on the agenda is educational policy. We have that at this time. And we have policy development and distribution and first reading of the bullying prevention and intervention.
So we have a bullying prevention and intervention policy first read. This policy was first adopted in 2004, revised in 2011. And we did ask legal counsel to review the policy, and what you see in front of you are the redlined legal review recommendations. So nothing too significant, just some updating of language. And this is also a combined policy in the sense that the town of Southborough, the Southborough school system, as well as the regional school system, have parallel bullying policies, and they're going through the same exact review.
In other words, don't get too creative.
Don't get too creative.
Any discussion? Take a look at this, and if we have
So
any
bring
comments
it.
or suggestions, we can bring them back. All right. And then the next item on the agenda is audience sharing. Are there any members of the audience that would like to share this evening? Seeing none? Any committee members?
Oh, I'm used to the principals all. So I did have the pleasure of going to, I was able to go to an NSFAC meeting last month, and there's another meeting on Wednesday, and I will be attending that too. I'm pretty sure it's on my schedule. So, but it was a great meeting last month. Marie Allen and her team were there presenting, so that was great. So on Wednesday, there is a Basics Right transition planning for IEP students ages 14 to 22. And it's presented by the Federation of Children with Special Needs, and it's going to be at the Northborough Library from 6 to 8 p.m. The workshop will provide an overview of the transition planning process for the youth with disabilities for ages 14 to 22 on IEPs, and you need to RSVP if possible. Usually their meetings are standing room only. Lately they've been really great, so make sure you get on the list. And then there's going to be, their general meeting is November 6th, and that's at 10 a.m. at the Southborough Library. And their guest speaker is attorney Amanda Mulhall. Sorry if I did not pronounce that correctly. And it's special needs estate planning is the topics that's going to be discussed. And December 4th will be the following month's meeting, and the topic will be on assistive technology. So some good things coming up with them.
Master plan, I'll share. They postponed their meeting from October 24th. Remember I mentioned it at the last meeting in September. They were going to have their final presentation out to the community, the public meeting, but they had to postpone that. They have not identified a date yet that I'm aware of, but stay tuned. And that'll be coming as a public.
Is the postponements, are they just like scheduling conflicts, or is there like a delay in the, you don't know?
Not sure, yeah. They
Oh,
just
okay.
postponed it.
I was just, okay.
Keep us updated. Great.
Just a reminder that there is no school for children tomorrow. It's a professional development day.
So the next item on the agenda is personnel items, with distribution of personnel reports in our packets. Communications, none at this time. And future agenda items. We have listed.
So we will have the FY21 preliminary budget presentation, which will include a update on the kindergarten transition implementation plan. And then we'll have the MASS, MASC conference update. And we were asked if we would like to have the strategies for children present in December or at a later time in January or February. It's the will of the committee.
I've been to one of their presentations before. I think it's really great. It's informative. It informs not only us, but the community. It would give, a great opportunity for the people who can't be here to watch and
Something to think about. So the next thing we've got, yes, Dawn?
Another future agenda item, you mentioned capital plan vote.
Yep.
And then another thing that I'd like to mention, something that was highlighted in the Community Advocate of October 25th. It was the Nutrition 68 program that was started by Alana Sear 2 years ago. And now we have more, I think all the elementary principals participating in it, and even the middle school. Jen Callahan was there at a presentation, Dr. Jill Barnhart, Alana Sear, and Amy Souls was there, and Pat Dole from the Northborough Rotary had, I think, gave money for this. So I don't know whether we want to reach out to Pat Dole to have him come in. And then Nutrition 68 refers to the number of hours, 68, that food insecurity that some school children experience from lunchtime on Friday till lunchtime on Monday. And just talking to some of the principals and Dr. Jill Barnhart, she gave me a quick overview of what it involves and what's into this black bag that goes home with kids, and I think it's really wonderful. We worry about kids coming to school that are hungry, that can't learn, and now we're also extending it to the families over the weekend. So it would be very beneficial to, hear about that program, and maybe extend it to Pat Dole from the Rotary Club to come. And the principals involved.
The Strategies for Children presentation, if we could do that in January or February. I'm just looking at the agenda in terms of the Lincoln Street School Improvement Plan and the FY21 preliminary budget presentation. It might be wise to push it out into January or February.
I think so.
So we have to close payrolls, and then we need to go into executive session. Joe?
Madam Chair, I move that we move to go into close out the open session and move into executive session to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining due to the chair's determination that a discussion regarding this matter in an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the position of the committee with no intent to return to open meeting.
Seconded.
Yes.
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 Yes. Executive session.
Thank you.